Awesome.
Welcome back, everybody, to the VRRC. Apologies for the technical issues that we were suffering there. Internet issues, unfortunately, well out of anybody's control. But we believe that we are back with you, and we hope that you found your way back to the new stream, and you are ready and raring to go as we are for our first race of the evening. Eventually, we concluded qualifying with Scott Bugner on pole position, but Eric Axelson jumping onto the front row with him. Row 2 will be Joel Lask and Kyle Felvers, with Josh Martin and Oliver Gibson next, then Elliot Dalton-Ayres. So of those championship contenders we were talking about earlier on, it's very much Elliot who has left himself with a little bit of work to be done. A reminder, it's Andy McEwen and Jack Oliphant here in the commentary box. We are a minute or so away from getting this race underway. The drivers have very kindly agreed to hang back and wait for us to sort our issues, and therefore we have not missed a moment of on-track racing action. And Jack, we've got a fascinating race ahead of us.
Yep, absolutely. It's going to be awesome. I think I'm well impressed with Kyle Felvers and Josh Martin, to be honest. Their qualifying pace compared to their practice pace is night and day. The qualifying much, much better compared to practice. So that is the way round you want it. Whereas Elliot Dalton-Ayres, like you've just mentioned, not quite the session he was hoping for. I think he was 4th in practice, 8th in qualifying, so not ideal. And Alok Iyengar as well, actually, a driver that I was expecting a little bit better. He was 6th in practice. He's down in 9th, and I know he's not a championship contender, but it's always worth keeping an eye out for those sort of outliers in the session. But yeah, all in all, I think most of the, the top 3 are the top 3 in the championship as well, so there's no reason why this won't be thrilling.
Indeed not, and we are almost ready to go, actually, because the red lights are about to come on. Reminder that it is Lask, the championship leader, by 5 over Axelson, who is 2 ahead of Bugner, who is 1 ahead of Elliot Dalton-Ayres. That is your championship picture, with 4 races to go. Race 1 tonight here at Suzuka gets underway now, and Scott Bugner looks to get off the line well from pole position, but we know that Eric Axelson is the best starter on the grid, and he proves that once again, getting level with the BMW, and on the inside line, let's have no Prost-Senna moments, everybody. They all managed. No, they don't. Further back, Andy Carroll is around. Involved also Kenny Press, and that was John Jones getting tagged as a secondary part of that as well. Sam Zero, I think, delayed in all of that too, but somehow, Jack, it is Bugner back to the front.
I'll be honest, the reason for my gasp and heart attack was I thought John Jones was Elliot Dalton-Ayres for a second. But I don't mean to say that John Jones isn't a worthy candidate in this, but that would have been a massive story in the championship as well. Josh Martin in 5th place, though, holding on to the back of Kyle Felvers. The front sort of 10, I suppose. Andy, you said it was a relatively clean start. They pretty much as they were, isn't it? There's no real big overtakes into turn 1 or anything. Eric Axelson looked like, I would have put money on him getting the job done into that first corner, but looked like he just held the brakes on, and Scott Bugner really brave to hold it around the outside. There's a lot of trust between these drivers, isn't there? Because that could have gone horribly wrong.
Well, yes, I referenced that famous Prost-Senna incident from 1990, and of course one of the, let's call them reasons, some would say excuses, that Ayrton gave that day was that he was on the tight line, and it's very hard to go side by side through that corner. Impossible when you don't brake or make any attempt to turn in, as some would say he did on that day. But thankfully, Eric and Scott managed to avoid the contact, and they do come out 1st and 2nd, as you said. Not much changing in the top half of the grid. One slightly significant move, though, was made by Elliot Dalton-Ayres up ahead of Oliver Gibson, who's also now being overtaken by Nicky Taylor and Alok Iyengar, who brings with him Reece Bell. So Oliver Gibson, for some reason, slipping backwards here on the opening lap, having had a really good qualifying effort. He gets forced out wide through the 130R, and really should now drop back in behind Reece Bell, which he does.
Yeah, no, it's bleeding positions on the opening lap for Oliver Gibson, which is a bit of a shame because I know he's had some love in the YouTube chat, but Reece Bell, Alok Iyengar, taking advantage of that, exactly what you've got to do, but I wouldn't say it looked easy for them. Very high-speed manoeuvres, wasn't it, for a lot of these drivers, and even fighting for that midfield position, any of those points basically up for grabs. Drivers are going to be putting their neck out for it in this late stage of the season.
They are absolutely right. Now, further back, Ben Jemison here is battling away with Sam Zero. That's Paul Laramie going wide just in front of them. That second corner, a really difficult one to get the car stopped for, but they all manage in their own way to get through the corner in one piece and begin their climb up through the S's towards the top of the circuit. This sequence of corners that tortures the tyres, particularly on that front engined BMW. So for Sam Zero, making a welcome return to racing with us here tonight, he will want to try and get a move on early before those tyres start to go away from him slightly. At the front of the field, everyone sort of going around in unison, half a second the gap between 1st and 2nd, and 2nd and 3rd, and 3rd and 4th. They're all very equidistantly spaced out right now, with Elliot Dalton-Ayres actually the one perhaps just starting to lose touch a little bit.
Yeah, you sort of get the impression it's like I feel like a teacher in a naughty classroom. Yeah, everybody seems to be behaving themselves, and you sort of think there's something suspicious going on here, isn't there? It's too good to be true, this one. And Nicky Taylor and Elliot Dalton-Ayres are maybe the spark that will cause a little bit of a chaos further forward in the pack, because it's going to be a bit of a battle for 6th position, isn't it? And Elliot Dalton-Ayres can't really afford to lose it out to Nicky Taylor, who of course is fighting for his own prize against the likes of Josh Martin and Kyle Felvers. So Nicky's going to be very motivated to go forward, and Elliot's going to be very motivated to keep him where he is.
Yeah, absolutely true, actually. So Elliot Dalton-Ayres is in a bit of a tricky position right now. Perhaps doesn't have the ultimate pace in that car, but he really is aiming to do what Josh Martin did a season ago, and that is just stay in touch with the leaders going into the finale. Alec Iyengar running very wide into the chicane, but yeah, remember Josh Martin came into the penultimate round of our last championship, the touring cars, 4th in the championship, 8 points off the championship lead. Elliot Dalton-Ayres arrives here at the penultimate round of the championship, 4th in the championship, 8 points off the championship lead. It is funny how history has a habit of repeating itself, and of course we know that Josh did eventually go on to win that championship, didn't have a great penultimate round, but then went into the finale with very little ballast on board. That's another thing to think about as well, and was able to steal the championship from under the noses of some of the real favourites. So Elliot Dalton-Ayres, hoping that history continues to repeat itself, he is doing just what he needs to at the moment to stay in touch.
Your ability to find symmetry in stats is very satisfying, Andy, I have to say. It's something I would never even think of having a look at. But then again, you have the almighty spreadsheet in front of you, don't you? Which you made yourself. There's no excuses. I could have done it myself, but I'm just here for the ride, to be honest. You're right. It would be really amazing to see that kind of comeback again from Elliot Dalton-Ayres, but he's got a long way to go. Sam Zero, you mentioned he hasn't been around with us too much this championship, and neither's Ben Jemison, new to VRRC in this particular championship. I think he's had a few weeks off with work-related stuff, so nice to see these two. I was about to say going nice and close to each other, but then they got a little bit too close.
Yeah, big slide there from Sam in the BMW as he went through the tight little right-hand hairpin there. That's the inventively named hairpin corner, but it was one of the better overtaking opportunities. So too is this one, the slightly more inventively named spoon curve, and having had a little look at the inside, Sam Zero sort of frightens Jemison away from the first apex, but ultimately no way through, and Kenny Press is sort of sticking with them as well, doing his very best to join in the fun. Great little battle this. It may not be at the front of the field, it's 12th, 13th and 14th positions, but they managed to skirt themselves around the issues at turn 1, and they have found themselves, again, sharing the same bit of track, very evenly matched on pace, and as Kenny Press pulls up to have a go at Sam Zero, it does once again prove that point, doesn't it, Jack? You don't need to be at the front in these races to have a good time.
Absolutely not. And interestingly, this little battle is the only time in the race that we'll be able to have the conversation about tyre choices as well, because Ben Jemison and Sam Zero both on the mediums, as is everybody else on the field, apart from Kenny Press, who decided to go for those softs. So we realistically might be able to see an opportunity where we can see where the tyres would drop off, if that was relevant to anybody else. But it looks like Sam Zero is apparently trying to drop off the circuit, no matter what kind of tyre he's on.
No. Well, I was about to say, what a brilliant bit of car control to keep it out of the barriers. And in fairness, he keeps it out of the barriers again, but the gravel very much helping him there. I think he's got dirt on his tyres and perhaps has aggravated those rear tyres as well a little bit. He needs to just take a step back, take a breath, and let those tyres cool themselves down a little bit. But that was a shame. I was enjoying that little battle. Oliver Gibson will not be enjoying this battle, actually, because he really will have felt that he should have been up there in the lead pack. As it is, he is stuck behind a very defensive Reese Bell. This is the fight for 9th position. Reese, who got his first ever podium with us a couple of weeks ago, looking perhaps to try and position himself in race 2 later on tonight to do the same thing. But Reese, one thing I've noticed about him is that he will fight for every position as if it is a podium place. Now, that's not to say that he's over-defending or doing anything wrong. He's absolutely not. But he will defend from you, no matter who you are, and no matter what position on the track you're fighting for. And I kind of admire that.
Absolutely. I mean, unless a blue flag is waving in front of your eyes, there's no reason for you to get out of the way of anybody, to be honest. So it's nice to see it. It's one of the reasons why he got that driver of the round, along with the podium, of course, but it's because he was entertaining and because he did get his elbows out and fend off some of the biggest names in the VRRC. So yeah, we're loving to see Reese Bell. He's not only got a little bit quicker this season, I think it's the consistency we've been most impressed with, and of course the story that comes with Phoenix Sim Racing as well. So yeah, I'd love to see Reese Bell and his teammate Stuart Vickers, who unfortunately isn't here this time round, Suzuka, but we can enjoy Reese's battles, at least along with the battle that we're on our screens right now, and that's between the Porsche and the Ford of Nicky Taylor and Elliot Dalton-Ayres.
Yeah, Elliot just doesn't have the pace, does he, tonight? We kind of saw hints of this, actually, a week ago at Fuji, but he managed to get 2 top 5 finishes because, well, Fuji was just one of those nights where everybody else was driving into each other and sort of having moments of their own, and Elliot just kept it clean, kept out of trouble, and managed to put together a pretty solid night. Here at Suzuka, though, so far, none of those shenanigans from the leaders, and he is struggling in 6th place with Nicky Taylor all over him through the first couple of corners, but then dropping back. It is difficult to follow another car super close through the S's, not so much because of dirty air, but